how to estimate closing costs on hard money loan. We're going to talk all about closing costs, what you need to know for a hard money loan, and what is involved with that. But before I do, thank you for asking this question. If you've got a question you'd like to have me answer, type it in the comments below and I'll put a video together for you. Okay, so what are closing costs that you can expect? What's kind of a rule of thumb and what you need to know about? Well, there's actually 5 different things you need to think about, and it's going to vary a little bit. So this is a difficult question to answer, but I'm going to do my best to help you out with this. So there's a couple things. Number one, you're going to have title fees when you're closing on a hard money loan. When you buy a property, you are getting title insurance for the lender. When you sell a property, you are getting title insurance for the new owner, for the buyer. So the lender gets it from the buyer, the seller gives it to the owner. That pays for the title insurance on the property, and title insurance is going to be covered that way. There's also some title fees. So you're going to have a closing fee and doc prep fees and all that different types of stuff. That's a hard one to answer because each title company or closing attorney is going to handle it differently. Keep in mind there's attorney states and there's escrow states. In an escrow state, the title company is actually doing that. In an attorney state, the title company is doing the research and providing the insurance, but an attorney is actually handling the closing. So you're going to have fees associated with that, and that's going to vary based upon what state you are in. Then you're going to get into what are called lender fees, which are typically origination, which is origination to make the loan actually happen. And then you're going to have fees like legal fees and doc prep fees, all those different types of things you're going to be dealing with when you're dealing with a lender, so you need to be prepared for that. Next thing you got to worry about is taxes. When you buy a property, you are going to get credit for the taxes. So let's say the taxes, everywhere's a little bit different. Some places you pay every quarter, some places you pay twice a year, some places you pay once a year. What's pretty common is you pay once a year. So let's just say taxes for the property is for the year is $1,000, or let's call it $1,200. Let's just use our math. And let's say you're buying it exactly 6 months in. What is going to happen is you're going to get a credit for $600. You're going to get $600 credit. However, once December rolls around, if that's when the taxes are due, you're responsible for the whole $1,200. So you'll get a credit for $600 from the seller, but then you're responsible for the entire tax bill when it comes due because you got a credit for that. So when you buy the property, you're like, oh, I had to come up with a little less money than what I was thinking. But when you sell the property, you're going to get a little bit less than you're thinking because you're going to be responsible for repaying the taxes for the time you collected and the taxes for the time you actually had the property. So that's something you've got to take into consideration. One of the other things you've got to worry about here is what are called transfer taxes. From my perspective, transfer taxes are a clever way of the government trying to make more money unrighteously from my perspective. But the idea here is when someone buys the property or somebody sells the property, there's a transfer tax, which is a percentage of the sales price that gets paid to the municipality for transferring the property, which doesn't make a lot of sense because when the property is transferred, no value is created, but somehow the government feels like they need to get this. Now, transfer taxes aren't everywhere. They're not in the states I like to invest in, but they are in several states, and that's a percentage that you need to understand what the transfer tax is like in your area. Next thing you got to worry about is HOA, Homeowners Association. These could be dues. Those are typically the same thing like taxes. You should get a credit for anything for a few days worth of that HOA, and then you'd be responsible for paying it. The good news with this is typically paid monthly, so you're not dealing with a huge amount of money like you are for a whole year's worth of taxes. You're usually only dealing with a few days worth or 10 days or 15 days or whatever where you'll get a credit and you'll be responsible for paying the entire HOA. The next thing you've got to think about is insurance. And one of the things that a lot of people just don't think about when it comes to insurance is vacant dwelling policies. You see, if this is a hard money loan, if nobody's living in the property, you've got to get a vacant dwelling policy to cover, because if something happens to that property and nobody's living in the property and you don't have a vacant dwelling, the insurance company is going to say, I'm sorry, we're not going to cover this, because when someone's living in the property, they can typically, if there's a flood, they'll catch it faster. Whereas if nobody's living in the property, it could go a week before somebody knows that there's actually a flood, which means the insurance company is on the hook for more money. So you've got to make sure you take into consideration some of the insurance that you're going to be dealing with here. So there's a lot of things to talk about here, but before we do, hit that thumbs up up button and tell YouTube to promote this video to more people because it's been helpful to you. So let's just recap here, guys. The exact hard money loan costs can get a little bit complicated. And as a matter of fact, I spent over a year putting a software together to make this easier, or as easy as possible when you're calculating that, because these things are going to vary based upon states, based upon areas. So we have an advanced deal analysis that helps people do that. It's very helpful so you can think through these things so you don't miss something. But in the end, there's a few things you need to think about. Title fees, lender fees, taxes, HOA, or insurance. Those are the 5 things you got to take into consideration. They're going to vary based upon areas, or just cheat and use our advanced deal analysis. It certainly makes it a lot easier for you. Okay, guys, how can you estimate all these costs? You've got to call and get the costs from the actual title insurance company. Should be able to give you a booklet that shows you those costs. The transfer taxes, you should be able to call the city and figure that out. With the actual property taxes, you need to call the city and figure those things out. With the origination lender fees, you need to be looking at your letter of intent. Like I said, there's a lot here, which is why we put a software together. If you would like to get a copy of my property value analysis, how I value properties, I will send it to you absolutely for free. You just need to text me your email address to 435-294-0433, and I will send that over to you for free. Just text me that email address. I've also got another video on how do you calculate seller's closing costs. We're getting a little bit more detail. I'll link that so you can check it out, as well as a blog post, the Pro Guide, how to calculate costs on a fix and flip. I will link that in the description below so you can check it out. If you're not currently a subscriber, please consider subscribing. Sure love to help you in your real estate and investing journey. Otherwise, make it a very profitable day, and bye for now.